Okay guys, so I am hyped, I'm excited, I'm jumping off the walls in anticipation to read this week's chapter of Black Clover, chapter 321, because everything I am seeing from these early leaks that we have for the chapter are just simply amazing. Now, as always, when it comes to these leak videos, I am not going to be having any images on the video itself, because I don't want to deal with any copyright. You can easily, as always, just find them by looking up on Twitter, hashtag BC Spoilers. But like I always do, I'm going to be using one of the leaked images for the thumbnail of this video, and honestly, I already knew going in which image I'm going to be using because it was actually the very first image of the leaks I saw, and this image might be the most raw depiction of Asta Tabata's ever drawn in his life. And honestly, I fell in love with this second I saw it. You guys already seen it for yourselves on the thumbnail, and you can't tell me that this is not possibly the best image of the entire chapter, at least from the leaks that we've seen so far. And you know what, speaking of the leaks, let's just jump right into it. So now, I want to preface that the leaks actually just came out as I'm recording this video about 25 minutes ago. So as of right now, there is no leak summary for the chapter, but we can kind of piece together exactly what's going to end up happening in the chapter through the few images that we do have out, which I think currently right now I'm going off of 6 to 7 images that have been leaked. And actually pulling up the first one I have right here saved up in my folder, we had this image of Sekkei again showing up again, and we basically see him apparently in this chapter just kind of lying on the ground again, saying, you know, we're gonna die, basically just kind of cowering in fear. And I honestly think the fact that Tabata is showing Sekkei so much in these past few chapters indicates that he's going to be doing something. I definitely think that Sekkei's going to be doing something to contribute in this fight before the arc ends. Or if not, after this arc's over, assuming that this is not the final arc of the series, I definitely see a major change coming to his character in the future. And you know what? To add on to that idea, the next image I have in my folder is actually of Sekkei somehow getting to Mimosa and Asta. I'm guessing that either once Lucifero starts fighting Yuno, his pressure from his gravity magic kind of lessens, so maybe Sekkei was able to crawl over to them, or Yuno used his star magic to teleport the two of them over towards Sekkei. And since he's using his star magic to basically keep them from being affected by the gravity magic, that affected Sekkei as well, so he's now able to be up. And we see him in this panel, which I don't have any translations for this panel just yet, but from the Twitter post that actually had this up, it's pretty much describing that Sekkei is going to have a flashback sequence in this page of back towards the first time he actually met Asta, and basically him saying that he kind of regrets the way he treated Asta back then, and the fact that Asta has always worked so hard to become stronger while he's kind of just played around and just kind of bluffed his strength this entire time. So again, I find it really interesting that Tabata is choosing now of all times to do some character development for Sekkei, which tells me that either he's going to do something before this arc's over to help out, and you know, may not be that major, but it might just be something that gives him the edge in the fight against Lucifero, or once this arc is over, again assuming that this is not the final arc of the series, we're going to see a major change in his character where he's going to be a lot more honest than he currently is right now. He's going to stop lying about things and actually make an honest effort to get a lot stronger than he currently is. Now, I don't see in any way, shape, or form, unless there is some major plot armor involved, of him getting on the same level as, you know, where Asta, Yuno, Noelle are currently. Hell, I don't even see him getting on the same level of where Magna is currently. But it would be kind of cool to see him actually make an honest effort to try to get stronger, and maybe in some way, shape, or form, he actually gets a solo fight where he defeats an opponent that's way stronger than him just by pure effort. And then the next image I have in my folder, which honestly has me almost as hyped as the first image that I used for the thumbnail did, is of Mereoleona apparently getting back involved in a fight, which honestly, this is just badass. This is, you know, totally in her character, seeing her, even though everyone else is down, all the other captains are down for the count, she is still active, she is still fighting, and it looks like she's going to be teaming up with Yuno in this chapter to basically fight off against Lucifero. And see, this right here, this is why Mereoleona is one of my top 3 favorite characters, tied with Yami always for second place in the series. Because honestly, I kind of completely counted her out. I thought all the captains were down for the count, and yet in this chapter, showing just how much of a badass she is, she's back up to fight. And even though she knows she doesn't stand a chance, she doesn't care because, you know, she just lives off the thrill of fighting stronger opponents. So Lucifero is probably the perfect opponent for her to go up against. Now, I mean, of course, obviously, she's not going to be able to do anything in this fight. Yuno's the only one who's actually capable of the two of them to actually do any kind of damage to Lucifero because of the Saint stage. But still, you got to show some respect to Mereoleona for getting back up after getting trashed on in the past 2 chapters. Okay, and then moving on to the next image I have in my folder, which honestly, I was debating back and forth between this image and the image I used for my thumbnail, whether or not to go with this or that, because honestly, both of these images are just purely raw, like just pure depictions of Asta and all his effort. But we have this image of Asta getting back up, gripping up his sword, with Mimosa looking at him worried, and him just barely struggling to walk as he's trying to get back into the fight. And this image honestly heavily reminded me of the fight during the Underwater Temple arc when Asta, after getting trashed on by Veto, got back up in order to protect Noelle. This is giving me the same exact vibes because, you know, Asta, even though he should be down for the count with all the damage he's taken so far, because of the fact that Yuno's still in a fight and is in danger, he's not getting down. He's not staying down. He is going to get back up. Now that Mimosa's healed him somewhat, she didn't heal him back to 100%. She even says at some point in this chapter, I believe in one of the kind of summaries I heard or saw on Twitter, that she doesn't believe that he should be getting involved in the fight anymore. But it doesn't matter to him because Asta, if one of his friends are in danger, as long as he's alive, he's going to continue to get back up and continue to fight. Even if he can't move his arms and limbs, he'll grip his sword up in his mouth and just drag himself over to the fight and help out in any way, shape, or form that he can. And that is one of the major reasons why I respect the hell out of this character right here. Okay, and then the next image I have in my folder was just honestly one that I kind of found very funny, and I'm assuming is going to be in the very beginning of the chapter, is of Lucifero just walking up to Yuno, and it looks like he's about to slap him across the face, which again, I think is going to be in the very beginning of the chapter because we don't see Yuno in his spirit dive form just yet. And one of the earlier images when we saw Mereoleona get back in the fight, we did see him in his spirit dive. So I'm assuming this is probably like the first page or two. But yeah, something about the image or the idea of Lucifero just kind of bitch slapping Yuno in this chapter kind of made me laugh when I saw it. Alright, moving on to the next image I have in my folder. And this is again of Sekkei, and we get to see Sekkei crying. And we don't have a translation for this page, but we have Sekkei crying in a big part of the panel. And then two panels on the side, which of Asta getting, weakly walking back to the fight. And of Yuno in the fight struggling against Lucifero. And I'm guessing that when we get a translated page of this, is going to basically be of Sekkei saying or thinking to himself that, he's just kind of like a failure or something, or he's showing some kind of respect for Asta for getting back up in this fight, even though he knows he has no chance of winning and can barely walk. Okay, so next up is actually just a few panels of Mimosa healing Asta, and we actually had some translations for these few panels. Basically, she's saying in this chapter, even I just want to run away with Asta-san right now, but that's not what Asta-san wants. What Asta-san wants is, and basically this is kind of just showing off that even though she cares about Asta, even though she wants to basically keep Asta away from danger because he's already been beaten up so much in this fight, she knows that no matter what, he's going to want to get back involved in the fight. But I actually really dig these few panels of Mimosa healing Asta because it shows just how much she actually cares about him. Because even though she knows deep down that what he really wants to do is get back involved in this fight, she, her first instinct is basically, hey, I need to get this guy out of here. Like, this is a guy she cares about a lot. This is a character that she's in love with. And her first instinct, because she's in love with him, is basically to keep him away from danger and get him as far away from this fight as possible. And that's real love right there. And honestly, Tabata, like I've been saying for a while now, Tabata, out of all the battle series of Shonen Jump, he has definitely depicted romance and love and kind of all that kind of stuff in this series the best out of all of them so far, at least out of the ones I've currently read and am reading. Hell, I would say that the only depiction of a romance or a character having a crush or being in love with another character that we've seen that's better than this so far is possibly what happened with Hinata showing up during the Pain Invasion arc, and basically her trying to help Naruto out by fighting Pain 1v1. And then the next image I have in my folder is the image I used for my thumbnail, which looks like it's going to be the last page of the chapter. And honestly, there's not really much to say about this. This is just a fire image of Asta, probably the best rendering that Tabata's ever done of him since the series started. And yeah, it's just purely badass. Alright, moving on for that, we got a quick panel of Mereoleona and Yuno both going in for the fight. Mereoleona saying, let's do this, and Yuno screaming, yeah. So, that's kind of hyped. I'm actually looking forward to seeing the two of them tag team in this chapter. And, alright, so that's the last image I have in my folder. But I did see one more image, which actually had Mimosa basically trying to stop Asta from getting involved in the fight. We're not really stopping him, basically saying to him, you're not ready for this fight. But she's basically just telling him, hey, listen, no matter what happens, don't die. That's the translation I saw on the page when it was uploaded on Twitter. But yeah, it's pretty much all we have for the leaks. Now, based on those leaked images, we can pretty much piece together what's going to happen in this chapter. So basically, it's probably going to start off with Lucifero going in to attack Yuno after basically him teleporting Asta away from Lucifero's final attack in the last chapter. Yuno's going to probably use his star magic to teleport to read him again, probably to where Sekkei is, go in the same stage, and then try to fight against Lucifero 1v1. And then the majority of the chapter is basically just going to be us focusing on Mereoleona healing Asta with Sekkei there, kind of basically giving his own commentary. And it's pretty much going to show some flashbacks of Sekkei's first introduction to Asta, him basically showing regret for not trying as hard as Asta has to get stronger, Mimosa showing how much she cares about Asta by basically trying to heal him. Yuno's going to struggle in this fight against Lucifero, and then Mereoleona's going to jump back in. The two of them are going to tag team against him. Most likely not really be able to do much against him, but put up a decent fight at least. Mimosa's going to go back and continue healing Asta, have her inner monologue about how much she wants to keep Asta out of the fight, but she's going to let him continue to fight because of how much she respects his, wishes. Asta's going to get back up, try to get him back involved in the fight. Mimosa's going to try to stop him slightly, but basically tell him at the end of the day, just don't die. Sekkei's going to have his final word in the chapter about how much he regrets, again, not being as strong as Asta or even trying as hard as Asta has. And then it's just going to end with Asta walking weakly back into the fight because he wants to help out Yuno. And that's pretty much where the chapter is going to end. And yeah, honestly, this sounds like a basic chapter, but just looking at the images and just, thinking about it for a second, I'm honestly excited. I'm really excited to read this chapter when it comes out on Friday. Now, what happens in this chapter is completely different from what I thought was going to happen. Because before the leaks came out, I actually made a prediction video about what I thought was going to happen in this chapter. And I didn't put that video out just because of the fact that the audio just got jumbled up and messed up. So I had to scrap it. But basically what I thought was going to happen is kind of similar to what happened in this chapter, but still very different. I thought it was just going to be Yuno fighting off against Lucifero by himself and him struggling throughout the entire fight and just trying to basically keep on the defensive and evade him while Mimosa healed up Asta. And then at the very end of the chapter, instead of Mereoleona showing up and Asta getting re-involved in the fight, I thought either Noelle was going to get involved or my hope was that the Spirit Guardians would get involved. Mostly because these characters were built up to be like the equivalent to captains over in the Heart Kingdom, and we still, besides Gaja, have not seen any of them do anything relevant. So I was really pulling because of the fact that I really want these characters to do something badass at least once before the series ends. I was really pulling for them to be involved in this fight just a little bit. I knew they weren't going to be able to help out much against Lucifero, but still I wanted to see them at least try to fight against them and show off what they can do. But I figured the more likely option would be Noelle getting involved in the fight, which I still think is going to happen. Now, her getting involved is probably going to happen much later, probably in the next chapter at the very end, and we're probably only going to see a bit of it in the following chapter after that, because if I remember correctly, she can only use the Saint stage for 1 minute, which means she's only useful for 1 minute in this fight, which is honestly going to be about as much I think Asta has left in his Devil Union, because I think Lucifero knocked him out of it before his 5 minutes were completely up, so he can probably go back into it for maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes at most. So it's going to be the three of them, which I think the bot has been setting up since the beginning of his arc, going up against Lucifero, with Mereoleona helping out, and possibly Sekkei getting somewhat involved somehow, some way. Exactly not sure how that's going to happen, but I do think it's going to happen at some point before the arc's over. And then it's probably just going to end in probably chapter 325. I'm giving a hard stop at chapter 325. That's where the series, or that's where the arc is going to end, with Lucifero being trapped in a corner, and then him and the second case devil just escaping. I'm still holding on to the idea that that's what the bot is planning on doing, and that he does not plan on ending the series with this arc. But anyway guys, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys thought about the leaked images for this chapter, and pretty much how excited you are for the chapter when it comes out on Friday and the official chapter coming out on Sunday. But that's it for the video. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.